Barbara Walters was the first time that I was talking about my HIV. So that was a big interview, and I'd been working with my therapist, Dr. Stan Ziegler, in preparation to be able to talk to her about all the things that were in my book, and we knew that she was going to ask HIV versus AIDS because my T-cell count was under 200, and the CDC definition to AIDS versus HIV is T-cells under 200, and so I'd been under 200 for a long time, but no one had told me. And the way that I found out was my co-author, Eric Marcus, wrote it in my book before he talked to me about it, because he assumed that I knew. And it took 3 days to get the courage to ask him about that passage in the book, because I wasn't dealing with it. Because going from HIV positive to having AIDS it's like stepping off a cliff and not knowing what's below you. But on the eve of the Barbara Walters interview, I went to my therapy session, came back early from a trip, and I went to my therapy session, was rolling along, thinking okay, everything's fine. Got to the to the office of Dr. Ziegler, and there was a note on his door saying that his associate was taking his appointments. Now, I knew that he was friends with Paul Manette, and the writer, and I knew that Paul Manette was very, very sick, and so I just assumed that Paul Manette had passed away, and he was helping Paul Manette's lover, Winston, take care of making calls and letting people know and making arrangements and that sort of thing. I got home and I got a phone call from my editor, Mitchell Ivers, and he said, "Did you hear the news?" And I said, I figured, I went to my appointment and Dr. Ziegler wasn't in, so I figured that Paul Manette had passed away. And Mitchell said, "No, Stan Ziegler passed away." And I was devastated. I couldn't talk. I mean, I was just, there was silence on the other, and I couldn't say anything. And I was so upset. But I went to the interview the very next day. I went to Belmont Plaza at Long Beach, and I drove, and I cried all the way there. And I got there, and this was the first time that I was meeting Barbara. And so I was on the boards, and I was doing some dives that they could film, and there was a break in there, and I was holding it together pretty well, but then when we stopped, then I had too much time to think, and so I was pretty upset. And so I did another dive, and then Barbara Walters comes over to me and says, are you okay? And I said, well, I just found out last night that I lost my therapist. And she said, oh my God, and just threw her arms around me. And I cried, she cried, and it was tough. She said, we'll get through this. So, that was a very warm side of Barbara Walters that you don't see very often, I guess.
Monday is publication day for his autobiography, Breaking the Surface. But tonight, for the first time, you'll find out who this sensitive and tortured champion really is. After you did that last dive, you put your arms around Ron O'Brien, trainer. You hugged him, and you started to sob.
Yeah.
What'd you say?
I said that nobody will ever know what we've just been through.
It's a hell of a way to do it. In all the years since, Louganis has kept the secret not only from the public, but from the doctor who stitched him up at the Olympics. What do you say to people who say, Greg, you could have been endangering lives of the other divers and of the doctor? What do you say to them?
That's really hard. That was probably one of the most difficult conversations that I've ever had. I had assumed that being a doctor and dealing with blood and that sort of thing, that he would be tested. And he didn't get tested until I told him. And I knew his family. I danced with his wife. He's not just a doctor.
You didn't have to tell anyone this.
I know.
You're telling it. You are now admitting for the first time that you are HIV positive.
Mm-hmm.
How are you today?
I'm doing okay. Health-wise, everything seems to be stable and that sort of thing. I still have bouts with depression, but I'm working on that.
Do you have AIDS?
According to the CDC standards of AIDS versus HIV, I do have AIDS.
The news broke about my HIV status on Wednesday, like at 5 p.m., and I had reporters at my front doorstep. I didn't mind that. I was thinking, oh my God, must be what Michael Jackson feels like or something. I was in good humor, so it kind of hit me at a good point. But I did have reporters handing me, sliding me notes under my door, which I thought was really rude, and I finally had to get security to get them off the property. And so that, and then there were negotiations with Oprah whether I was going to do it or not. Barbara had the exclusive, and Oprah was talking to Barbara Walters and making sure that it's okay, and she promised to air it, not air it until the Monday. We would tape it on Thursday, and it would air on Monday after the Barbara Walters piece aired on Friday.